My channel's entire foundations have been built on the Joker pretty much, or more specifically the Joker in the Fox series Gotham. I've gone from loving it, to hating it, to loving it again, to hating it, to worshipping it, to hating it, to just being a little confused by it. Because when all is said and done, we have a really weird end result when it comes to the Joker in Gotham. There is a lot of story fluff that just ended up amounting to nothing, as well as ideas that were just thrown aside. A sense of self-awareness, yet this weird refusal to do the logical. And through it all, there's been this astute denial, and a sense of a lack of confidence in every single direction they took with this character in this story. And the end result is a masterpiece, a mixed bag, and a colossal failure all in one. And every success that they had with this is partly because they kind of missed the point. I want to say Gotham brought us the best Joker we've ever had in live action. And yet so many mistakes were made. So it all began with a contractual agreement between Warner Brothers and Primrose Hill, the producers of Gotham. In that agreement, to make the Gotham series, there were characters that they were allowed to use, and there were characters that were off limits. And included in those characters that were off limits was the Joker. Warner Brothers had plans of their own for this character. They wanted him to become more of a franchise in his own right. So they didn't want to take their chances, they wanted to avoid confusion, and they wanted to avoid diluting their lucrative brand. This move was divisive. Some would say that this is the move that ruined Gotham for them. But pretty much every cloud has a silver lining, right? As I was watching through that first half of Season 1 of Gotham, I was frankly really enjoying the story and the characters we'd been given. Oswald Cobblepot was enough of a reason to tune in. I really enjoyed Fish Mooney, I really enjoyed Ed Nigma, and Bruce and Alfred were great too, as well as Jim Gordon. And me personally, at that time, I was saying I could care less if the Joker makes an appearance in this. It was originally stated that each episode would have a possible contender to become the Joker as kind of their way of paying homage to the character, and I think that was kind of a means to shut everybody up about it. Sometimes in the distance you'd hear some maniacal laughter, maybe you'd see a comedian, you know, all people that could possibly go on to become this. The idea was that this ideology was very much alive and well in the world of Gotham, but they were not to touch the actual Joker himself, to adhere to their agreement with Warner Brothers. And you know what, that's fine. The original vision for this was for it to be like a crime show, and it was very enjoyable. I really enjoyed the characters that we had. And at this time, we really had no idea that this Joker deal was going on. But at that stage, I could give or take, also partly because the Joker's origins have always been ambiguous, and Gotham was a show about origin stories. So it seemed fair enough. It was just one omelette broken to make this egg. I couldn't really have messed it up more if I tried, could I? I don't like omelette. But then came the promotional material for The Blind Fortune Teller. And this episode was to feature a villain that is no joke. On all the posters, you could see Cameron Monaghan's face laughing a very sinister grin with lots of ha 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 written around it. And so I think everyone automatically made the assumption that he was the Joker. I mean, why wouldn't you, frankly? Like, the whole publicity thing is kind of gearing him up to be. So basically their sneaky way of kind of improving a definitive answer to a Joker in this show was to bring in a new character called Jerome Valeska, a kid who suffered some serious trauma in his childhood as the result of abuse. It resulted in him murdering his own mother and having a chaotic meltdown at his GCPD interrogation. Now, while Gotham Season 1 had its mainstay villains of Penguin, Maroni, Falcone, and Fish Mooney, they had a lot of one-and-done villains too. For example, the Balloon Man, we touched a little upon Harvey Dent, Black Mask. So my assumption was that we wouldn't be seeing the Joker again because I couldn't really imagine him in this kind of show for the long term. It was more of a grimy, sort of a gangster show, and I feel like a villain like the Joker would chew up too much scenery. Cameron Monaghan gave me as an audience member in his performance enough to shut me up as a Joker fan and say, yeah, there we go, we saw their equivalent to the Joker, moving on to the other things now. And while he wasn't blatantly the Joker, it was enough for us to want him to be the Joker, which I think caused a ripple effect of challenges for Primrose Hill, as footage of Cameron Monaghan's performance in this role went viral and got everybody talking about Gotham more than ever before, and Joker fans were begging for more. I think Gotham's producers knew they had to act on this and capitalize on it. The first season of Gotham had a pretty lukewarm reception, but the most talked about thing in it was Cameron Monaghan's performance as Jerome Valeska. They knew they had something great there, but they knew they also couldn't use the Joker. And this is where they started taking the risks. Jerome was the main attraction of the 3-episode opening stint to Gotham Season 2. Now, I say a villain like the Joker would chew up far too much scenery for a show like Gotham, but the show's entire style had changed come Season 2. No longer trying to be a subtle Grimehouse series, it was much more of a scenery-chewing comic book show, and the villains were the top priority. So by bringing back the fan-favorite character in the opening 3 episodes of Season 2, they knew they were gonna have the audiences switching on. And boy did we all, and boy did they play fast and loose here. Jerome's personality and appearance had some deliberate retooling. His hair was now spiky and pointy, just like the Joker's, and rather than being presented as a twisted child, he was now basically the Joker, which is part one of where I feel they started to miss the point. He didn't have the white makeup, nor did he have the green hair, and nor was he called the Joker. But in everything else, in every other aspect, he was the Joker. He was the Joker, but not coloured in yet, basically. Now, I'm pretty sure this is violating their agreement with Warner Brothers. I am surprised they didn't have Warner Brothers' legal department banging on their door and telling them, hey, what's this all about? Now, one thing I've always complained about is just how much Gotham trailers tend to reveal. And fortunately, at the time Season 2 was being broadcast, I didn't really check the trailers. And I'm glad I didn't, because in the Comic-Con trailer for Gotham Season 2, which aired before the series, you see Jerome's death. And I think there is a reason for this. I think this had to appear in the trailer to keep Warner Brothers off of their tails, as a means of being upfront and saying, well, he can't be the Joker because he's dead. So that's that then. Jerome gets everybody back into the show, but then takes his final bow because, well, they can't use this character. Warner Brothers made it explicitly clear they do not have the right. They took a big risk. It did pay off in that they got the audience back in, but the audience dropped again. I think Jerome had developed a bigger fan base than the show itself because Jerome was such a brilliant character. After Jerome's final curtain call, we're presented with a lot of different people seeing Jerome on the TV, laughing and cackling, inspired by what they're seeing. And the producers back this up by saying that the Joker in this universe is an ideology. It all began with Jerome and many more will follow in his footsteps. But the Joker is just one person. This justification obviously took a lot of cues from The Dark Knight's interpretation of the Joker. But as perfect as Cameron Monaghan in this role was, and as perfect as Jerome's dialogue was, once again, they missed the point. The Joker being interpreted as an ideology in The Dark Knight works because the Joker's identity and past are never revealed. He presents us with 3 possible backstories that contradict each other. He's given no secret identity or alias, and we never get to see his true face. In point, this man can only be one thing, and there's only one thing that's evident. He is the Joker. And the entire story is about him bringing out the worst in Gotham. This is a man that carries the Joker ideology with him and embodies it. In Gotham, it doesn't work that way. Jerome Valeska is a person with a name and a past. He is a human individual. And his ideology is not something he's necessarily aware of. This is just who he is as a character, and he was driven to it by abuse. He is not an out-of-the-blue force of nature like Heath Ledger's Joker was, which is why this just doesn't work. And the idea that someone else would watch Jerome on the TV, or just watch his actions and observe, and take on this ideology for themselves and become the Joker is just so utterly anticlimactic. Like, Jesus Christ, guys, you made your bed, now lay in it. You're not gonna convince anyone that the Joker became who he is because he watched someone on the TV do it. And at that time, we were all scratching our heads because we had no idea of this Warner Brothers deal. But I think at that time, they themselves knew that Cameron Monaghan was going to have to come back in some capacity. So what they tried to kind of do is have Jerome sort of still be an essence to Gotham City. Treat him as kind of the manifestation of Gotham City's underworld, and that from it he would birth more demons. This is another issue. Gotham is full of criminally insane people. It's a known fact. They're like flies to a turd when it comes to Gotham. And Jerome was a particularly charismatic, murderous kid. But then they're trying to pursue this story with him, almost like possession, almost like he's some kind of messianic figure. And the truth be told, it really was not organic to his story. The birth of the cult of Jerome was not an organic storyline. It was something that was a means to an end. It was a means of keeping Joker fans quiet. And we even saw a little cameo of someone who sounded exactly the same as Jerome and looked the same as Jerome in the finale of Season 2. Just another thing to get us to shut the hell up. And something to get people to keep watching anyway, the people that watched it just for Jerome, which was a large amount of the audience. I feel like the mantra was no longer to hint at the Joker once per episode, but to hint at Jerome as much as possible. And I understand this, Cameron Monaghan as Jerome was too good to pass up on. In Season 3, the ratings were dropping, they were given a 3-episode order for a winter finale. And the producers at Gotham had the hopes of these 3 episodes being such a success that they would be able to get a full season order for Season 3. So, to get the audiences back, they knew there was only one thing they could do. They had to resurrect Jerome in the best way possible. And to some kind of degree, they had to make him the Joker, whether Warner Brothers liked it or not. So while they steered clear of a white face and green hair, they instead opted for another design attribute that points directly to the Joker, but a very specific look. They opted to pay homage to Death of the Family in having Jerome's face cut off while he was dead. And of course, these 3 episodes were massive hits. Jerome survived but was taken off to Arkham Asylum, and the Gotham producers were just scratching their heads on what the hell they could do to get themselves out of this mess. Jerome Valeska's story could only go one way, but they weren't allowed to do it. I think between Season 3 and 4 there must have been some negotiations with Warner Brothers going on. I can't imagine anyone having the gall to pull off what they did, while being astutely told, no, you can't do this. Either that or they were just doing just enough to stay legal. Jerome was brought back in Season 4 for the final time, and this character was just rapidly hurtling towards becoming the Joker. His face was sewn back on, his smile stretched, and they even included the Joker's signature weapon, the Joker gas. But instead of him becoming the Joker and then breaking the law entirely, they decided to prolong the inevitable. Cameron Monaghan was reintroduced into another role, the twin brother of Jerome Valeska, who acts nothing like the Joker and is completely sane. Either that, or he was just telling himself that. Jerome Valeska was killed off, and they started from scratch with Jeremiah Valeska, providing a brand new origin for the character. And this twist was pretty talked about. In fact, talking about this twist is what got my YouTube channel off the ground. And I guess you can't really put copyright on clown makeup if it doesn't quite 100% match the Joker's. We had a dramatic moment of Cameron Monaghan getting the pale skin and red lips, but instead his hair was a mix of several colours as opposed to green, and rather than wearing a purple suit, he wore a blue suit. He looked enough like the Joker for everybody to call it an adaptation, but he looked different enough to keep Warner Brothers quiet, I guess. I mean, there must be a reason why Warner Brothers haven't sued Primrose Hill for this. And to add to the damage control, Gotham's producers spoke out and stated that Jeremiah is not the Joker either. So after all of that build-up and story fluff, and for some reason Fox pushing an ad campaign saying who is the Joker in big letters, fans everywhere, myself included, just wanted to know what the hell is going on and where this story is actually going. And unfortunately for Cameron Monaghan on Twitter, he had to deal with a lot of angry people. And it took for Cameron Monaghan to finally actually fess up about it. Gotham were not allowed to use the Joker. What Cameron Monaghan stated was that the characters of Jerome and Jeremiah were a means to an end, and you could kind of pick and choose who was the Joker for you. Just don't go expecting green hair anytime soon. Which was actually fair enough in that case. I mean, yeah, I was a little bummed out that we'd never get someone we could actually call the Joker officially, but at the same time I understood. Corporate politics can be a bit of a drag, and to be honest, I love the character of Jerome so much that I was just happy with Jerome being Jerome and never actually seeing him become the Joker. It would be a missed opportunity, but arguably better than what we got in the end. Call it the best of a bad situation. So, Season 5 was announced to be the final season of Gotham. It wasn't something the producers intended on in the first place, but it was a bad situation they just had to make the best of. Not enough people tuned in to Season 4, and I guess the Joker just fell through. I feel like had they just stuck with Jerome, we wouldn't have this issue, because he was such a crowd pleaser of a character. I mean, there's more to the Joker than his appearance, but okay. So Cameron Monaghan stated on his Twitter that negotiations were made between Warner Brothers and Primrose Hill regarding the Joker, and they had permissions now that they didn't have before. It was all pretty cryptic, to be honest. Further tweets surfaced with Cameron Monaghan stating that he was thrilled to finally make the dream truly come true in the Gotham finale. As well as saying, guys, if you're wondering if we're going to do the thing, yeah, we're doing the thing. and a lot of hype was generated to see where this character was going next. Jeremiah was at the forefront of the ad campaign for Gotham Season 5. He was finally on a character poster for the first time, and it certainly looked like he was going to become a series regular. No, he wasn't. In fact, he got the least screen time in Season 5 that he did of any season. Well, except Season 1, I guess. So, what rights did they get in the end? Well, judging by the character arc, they were allowed to throw him into the vat of chemicals, and have him make a final Joker-esque transformation. But they still weren't allowed to call him the Joker, nor was he allowed to have green hair or a purple suit. Instead, he had very thinning, wispy hair, as a result of the acid damage, which works, refer to himself as just whatever would spring to mind, and he wore a green suit with a purple overcoat over it. In the end, the Joker acted just jokery enough to get by, made a very brief appearance, and that was it. That was the end of the show. Toodles, I guess. So the story of the Joker in Gotham is basically the story of a character that should never have existed. But the world just wanted too much, the show just needed too much, and he just did too much to justify his own existence. It's the story of a studio clutching at straws to keep hold of something, while simultaneously never allowing it to be what it actually was. For how successful this character ended up being in the end, it was almost kind of completely by accident. Jerome was integral to the show's survival because they had the unfortunate circumstance of having a character whose popularity outweighed the show itself. The smart move would have just been to allow Gotham to be its original premise. You could delve into the kookier aspects of the show, but without the Joker. But the thing is, they felt like they needed this character to carry the show, to get in the views, to allow it from season to season, to complete their story. In the end, the Joker ended up just being a crutch for Gotham. A crutch that they did take a lot of pride in, though, and led to some extremely good stories. And that's kind of the interesting thing. The character of Jerome Valeska should never have existed. He is a violation of an agreement, and something that the producers were trying to sweep under the rug, and something that the studio didn't want. And yet he just forced his way into existence because he was just too irresistible. When you think about it, that's kind of exactly what the Joker is. He is unstoppable. And when they finally had to call time on Jerome, they still found a way to include a Joker somehow. It is really evident when you think about the backstage politics that the story of the Joker was made up as they went along because it was made to get rid of this character, while simultaneously relying on it. And in their shoes, I'm really not sure what I would have done either. The show suffered from really poor ratings when he wasn't around, but yet keep him around and risk a lawsuit. Worse yet, schedule conflicts with Cameron Monaghan's other show, Shameless. In the end, was Gotham's Joker a successful endeavor? Factoring in everything we have here, my answer would be no. However, the accidental brilliance of Jerome Valeska justified this. As an audience member, this gave me a character that I fell in love with. No homo. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Jerome Valeska ended up being possibly the most jokery Joker that we've ever seen in live action, and it gave us a spectacular performance by Cameron Monaghan. There's a lot that we have to be grateful here, but at the same time it could only lead to disappointment, as we never really truly got to see him reach his final destination. I guess if I were the producer of Gotham, the lead one, the one that calls all the shots, I guess what I would do is sow a few more seeds in the actual show to suggest that Jerome can't be the Joker, but make them subtle enough. Perhaps have a moment where Jerome bumps off a goon who's wearing a purple suit and have him say something like, "Heh, I wouldn't be seen dead wearing a purple suit." Or when he was in the circus, have him fight off a clown and say something like, "I've always hated clowns." Stuff that's subtle enough to be interpreted as cinematic irony, but also enough to throw Warner Brothers off the scent once and for all. And keep Jerome as your only Joker. None of this ideology stuff, none of this Jeremiah Valeska stuff. As good of a story as that is, it doesn't contribute to the overall narrative very well. Have Jerome remain Jerome, and then maybe, in his very final appearance in the finale, he could get knocked into the vat of chemicals. And then we don't need to see the rest, because the rest is history. We got our wish, Jerome is the Joker. But it's unspoken. And then if anybody from Warner Brothers wants to pipe up, you could just say, well, he's dead. He died in the vat of acid. But the audience, they've all got it left up to their imagination. The end result of having this Joker that never really was, could never refer to himself as the Joker, and went through so many transformations only to end up being a bit of a babbling crypt keeper looking fella. Well, sadly, nobody wins. Warner Brothers are gritting their teeth because, like, Jesus Christ, guys, we told you don't do that. The fans are just like, huh, okay. And Primrose Hill are just rushing around trying to figure out, well, how can we make this right and how can we make it satisfying? The point is, by all means, do Jerome Valeska. But if you can't do the Joker, don't do the Joker. And it's all easy for me to say this in hindsight, but I wasn't there. I wasn't working with what they were working with the pressure, with the constraints. At the time this show started, I was way too young to be working in television, and probably still am now. At least, not in that kind of position anyway. A man can dream, though. Don't get the wrong idea, I'm a couch critic at the end of the day, pretty much. I admire the crap out of the work done on this show. So what do you guys think? Comment below and discuss, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, please, please, please do hit subscribe, hit the like button. In the description below are two links. One to the Discord, where you can come and chat with friends of mine and myself. The other links to the Patreon. I want to be doing bigger things with this channel, find bigger and better ways to deliver the content you guys like. You guys really enjoy those Joker shorts and those Valeska Brothers shorts, and I want to find a way to make them bigger and better than before. Get more resources, more talent in, and possibly to open up some tiny little job positions on Channel Pub. It's all theoretical, as the goal does appear to be very out of sight, but if I can get people on this Patreon, it would be fantastic, as it would be a means of truly capturing the potential, realizing my dream of what this channel could be. Coming up is a trailer for my very own passion project, Marvelous. It's a spin-off from the Marvelous Spider-Man fan films that are on YouTube by Tough Cookie Media. They're fantastic, do check them out. The spin-off is something both of us put a lot of heart and energy into, so please do check that out. And as always, Gothamites, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.
No, what about it?
It's cancelled, dude.
For real?
You didn't get the notification?
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, it's cancelled.
Yeah, well, I came all this way for nothing then. Hey, you want to hang out?
No.
I just heard there was a gunman. Tracy, you gotta get out of there. Tracy? Tracy.
Okay, so I guess the best advice I could give to anybody is this. Evaluate your circumstances, be brave. Be prepared to fail, but always get up. You owe it to yourself to be marvelous, so why regret being anything less? Well said. I'll see you around, buddy.